Brainerd A versus White Bear Lake in White Bear Lake. Up in the Brainerd zone, Norris pushing it up the wall. Norris out to Stewart in the neutral zone. Stewart up the middle, puts it on goal and is covered for a whistle by White Bear goalie. Marsh on the face-off. Stewart and Hotman on the wing. Then you got Thompson and Norris on the shot by Stewart, just wide. Hotman centering pass to Marsh. Marsh to Stewart, intercepted, turned over to White Bear. White Bear heads out of Brainerd zone, out of their zone into the Brainerd zone, up the middle. Shot on goal, stick save by Turl. Thompson to Stewart. Stewart back to Thompson. Thompson off the glass. It's kept in by White Bear. Stolen away by Marsh. Marsh heads out to neutral zone. It's stolen away from him, and White Bear carries it in across the blue line on the right side. Stewart puts a stick on him, but White Bear up the middle, and they score the hash marks. Leibel on the face-off. Paskey up to Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer loses the puck in the neutral zone. Steals it back. Leibel pushes it in across the blue line. Stops just inside the White Bear zone. White Bear clears it out. Paskey heads in. Stolen off his stick. White Bear pass up the middle. Ends up down ice in the Brainerd zone. Weezy picks it up. That's an icing on White Bear Lake. Bible again. Henson and Dahlheimer on the wing. Paskey and Weezy back on D. White Bear out. Center ice. Weezy chases him down. Steals the puck away. Dumps it off the wall, but it's kept in. Dumped in deep in the Brainerd zone. Paskey scoots it along the wall to Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer out of the Brainerd zone. Center pass to Henson. Henson up the middle. Poke check off his stick as he crosses the blue line. A puck on the wall. Henson battling for it. Paskey dumps it down low. Henson races forward into the corner, but it's turned over to White Bear. Poke check by Bible. Loosens the puck up. White Bear sends it down through the neutral zone into the Brainerd zone. Paskey with it. Paskey circling behind the Brainerd net. Sends it all the way down ice. That's an icing on Brainerd. .11 left in the first. White Bear with 3 shots on goal. Brainerd 0. Score is 0-1 in favor of White Bear Lake. Puck out against the wall. Bates with it, sends it up off the wall and out to neutral zone. And White Bear heads back to retrieve it in their zone. That's intercepted in the neutral zone, but White Bear picks it back up. They skate in, try to deep pass Thompson. He steals the puck away. McDonald sends the puck off the wall out into the neutral zone. Bates pushes it across the blue line and falls down, turning the puck over to White Bear Lake. White Bear Lake loses the puck out to neutral zone. Norris sends it back off the wall. White Bear dumps it in the Brainerd zone. Norris sends it back out. Marsh intercepted by Potman. He scoots the puck in on the far wall, deep into the White Bear zone. Stewart with it down low. He's got Marsh out front. Stewart trying to shake the defenders, sends it up the far wall. Weezy skates over to keep it in. Marsh backhands it in, deeper into the zone, and then it's sent down behind the White Bear net. Stewart, Marsh pressuring, but White Bear skates it out. White Bear in on the left side. Thundering pass right out front. And it's covered by Turtle for a whistle. Marsh on the face-off. Potman Stewart with Weezy and Paskey. Paskey sends it up off the glass, batted down by White Bear, but Potman clears it out to center ice. White Bear picks it up, skates it in on the left side, cut towards the middle, over to the right wing. Shot on goal, rebound covered by Turtle. And swept out. Puck loose behind the net. Stewart races in for it into the corner. Potman there to help. Puck set back to the other side, picked up by Paskey. Paskey up the wall to Potman. Potman scoots it forward across the blue line and turns it over to White Bear. They fumble the puck at the blue line. Puck is kept in. Potman backhands it up the middle. Henson almost got a stick on it. And it's shot in by... Marsh, I think, put that in. Brainerd on the board, 1-1 now. I think that was Marsh that got that in. Bible on the face-off. Both back out to neutral zone. Bible on the far wall in the neutral zone. He gets it across the blue line. His puck picked up by Henson as he... Bible falls down. Henson scoots it down low in the White Bear zone. Comes out to Thompson at the point. Thompson tries to send it down low. Didn't get enough on it. Turned over to White Bear. They head out of zone. Poked in by Bible. The puck picked up by Henson. He sends it over to Dahlheimer from center ice. Dahlheimer loses the puck. White Bear out to center ice. Backhanded across the blue line. Sent back out by Norris. Dahlheimer scoots it along the wall. It's stolen off his stick. Bible rushes up. Intercept. White Bear across the blue line. They cut to the left side of the Brainerd zone. Pass out front. And saved by Turtle. That pass. White Bear player didn't get anything on it. 10:38 left in the first. Score 1-1. Sweet on the faceoff. Sweet over to McDonald. Stolen away by White Bear. Pass out front. High slot. Shot blocked by McDonald. Rebound goes into the left corner. Picked up by White Bear. Out to the point. Shot from the point, blocked by McDonald again. McDonald skates it across the blue line. Out to center ice. Paskey picks it up. Gets it all the way in across the blue line. McDonald, center zone, backhand shot. Goes just wide. Rebound out front. Paskey keeps it in. Tries to keep it in the blue line. Takes a funny bounce. White Bear picks it up, skates into the Brainerd zone. Backhand shot. Rebound, swept wide. Nice save by Turtle. McDonald across the blue line. Backhands it forward. Stewart races down for it into the White Bear zone, but he's beat to it. The White Bear heads out. Puck out center ice. Norris gets a stick on it, chips it forward. Norris in across the blue line. Shot from the blue line on goal, and it's held for a whistle. 9:29 left in the first. Marsh Potman Stewart with Norris and Thompson. Marsh on the face-off over to Potman. Potman circles away, sends it down low behind the net. Stewart picks it up, sends it out to Thompson at the point. He's got pressure, so he scoots it to center zone, but it's intercepted by White Bear, and they carry it on out. Puck ends up on goal, and it's covered by Churl for a whistle. Marsh, the face-off in the Brainerd zone. White Bear out to their point. Shot blocked by Potman, ends up in the left corner. White Bear keeping it in. They dump it down. It's picked up by Norris, off the wall, and down ice. Should be an icing on Brainerd. .852 left in the first. Shots on goal are 3 for Brainerd now, 9 for White Bear. White Bear wins the faceoff. Shot on goal from center zone. Stick save by Churl. Rebound picked up and scooped over to the right wing wall. Paskey and Potman battling for it. Potman tries to scoot it forward. White Bear keeps it in. White Bear up the middle. Shot high and wide. Rebound popped over to the right side again. Stolen away by Paskey. Paskey off the wall. Potman follows it in across the blue line. Gets a little stick on it and ends up on goal. Covered for a whistle. Bible, Dahlheimer, Henson with Norris and Thompson. Bible scoops it into the corner. White Bear sends it up the far wall. Thompson picks it up in the neutral zone. He's immediately tied up and stolen away. White Bear gets it in across the blue line, up the middle, tied up. And puck sent up the far wall. White Bear keeps it in. Henson passes up the middle to Dahlheimer. He falls down. Almost a breakaway for Dahlheimer. White Bear in the neutral zone. Tips it forward in on the right side. Cut off. Norris scoops it up the wall. Off the neutral zone again. Dumped in by White Bear. They still had a couple players in zone, so offsides for White Bear Lake. Face off in the neutral zone. Bible over to Henson. White Bear intercepts in across the blue line. Norris, Paskey cuts him off. Paskey chips it forward to Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer out of his reach, but he chases after it into the White Bear zone. Dahlheimer with a stick on it. And gets a shot off the last second, and it's held for a whistle by the White Bear goalie. Got Sweet, McDonald, and Bates with Paskey and Wheezy shot from the point, hits traffic out front. Bates tying it up on the wall. That's McDonald. To Bates out front, shot, saved, rebound out front, swept wide. McDonald in the corner, trying to get it loosened up. Sweet in there with him. McDonald centering pass, nobody there. Off a skate out front, Paskey chips it towards the slot and hits a skate. Deflected into the left corner. Puck in the left corner, pops out. Easy, steps up and swats it down the wall. Bates pushes all the way down behind the net. And Sweet races in after it as the puck rolls over into the right corner. Sweet chucks it behind the net. And White Bear with it now. Pass out to the neutral zone. Man coming up the left. Weezy races back and steals the puck away as the White Bear player takes a tumble. Here comes Paskey. poked off his stick at the blue line. He has to circle back for it. Out to neutral zone. Bates with it, center ice, sweeps it forward. Hotman races in to push it in deeper, but White Bear with the puck. White Bear in on the right side, slap shot from the top of the right wing circle, goes into the top right corner. I don't think Turl even got an eye on it. Brainerd goes down 1-2 now with 5:52 left in the first period. Marsh on the faceoff. Marsh wins the faceoff, backhands it towards Norris, but White Bear player steps up and steals it. Carried in on the right side. Out front, cut off by Stewart. Thompson picks it up. Thompson centering pass to Potvin. Potvin not able to control it, and White Bear heads back into the Brainerd zone. In on the right side, they try to cut towards the middle. Poke check by Norris. Picked up by Potvin. Potvin to Marsh out center ice. Turned over to White Bear. Stolen away by Potvin. Potvin in across the blue line. On the left, Potvin shot. Tip wide. Down low, Potvin takes a shot from the goal line. It hits the side of the net. Potvin tries a wraparound. He's cut off. Puck pops out over the right side, and White Bear picks it up. They fling it out to neutral zone. Picked up by Norris. Norris heads down the wall. Gets it across the blue line. It's turned over to White Bear. White Bear on the far side of neutral zone. Thompson steals it away. Scoots it over to Norris in the corner. Norris up the wall. White Bear not able to keep it in. Puck's loose in the neutral zone. And White Bear picks it up, skates it into the Brainerd zone on the left side. Shot from the inside the blue line, goes high and wide. Rebound up the right side. Dahlheimer gets it across the blue line out to neutral zone. Loses the puck at the red line. Turns it over to White Bear. They're back in on the right side. Pass over to their left wing. Missed pass. Norris out front. Blocks the shot. And loose puck tipped out across the blue line by Bible. And White Bear Lake is offsides as they try to head back into the Brainerd zone. 4:07 left in the first. Bible, Dahlheimer, Henson with Paskey and Weezy. Face off on the neutral zone just outside the Brainerd zone. White Bear wins it. In on the left side, they dump it on goal. Goes just wide. The rebound pops into the right corner. White Bear heads towards the net. Paskey sends it up the far wall. Kept in by White Bear Lake. Easy back to retrieve it. Sends it back the other way. Henson on the wall. Loses control of it. And it's sent back in across the blue line. White Bear is offsides. Henson off the faceoff over to Dahlheimer at the red line. Dahlheimer in on the left side, cut off by Bears player. Dahlheimer battling in the corner. Bears come away with it, stolen away by Bible, and picked up by White Bear Lake. 3-on-1, the pass through the slot, Paskey there, and nobody makes contact with the pass. Puck on the near side wall, cleared out by Dahlheimer, chipped back in again by White Bear Lake, and they're offsides again. 3:04 left in the first. Brainerd down by 1. Shots on goal are 5 for Brainerd, 11 for White Bear Lake. Sweet on the face-off. White Bear Lake wins it. Chip it in across the blue line, deep into the Brainerd zone. Thompson swoops it over to Norris on the right side. Comes up the wall. Shot from the right D is blocked. Norris, McDonald pressuring the D. He has to dump it down the wall. Norris loses his stick. Comes up the wall again to the right D for White Bear Lake. Norris sends it back up. White Bear Lake keeps it in. Thompson picks up the puck, center of Brainerd zone. Poked off his stick as he enters the neutral zone. White Bear Lake heads back in. Thompson shuts him on. White Bear Lake center ice. McDonald chips it across the blue line. Turn back over to White Bear Lake and they head out. 3-on-2, White Bear Lake. With Thompson and Norris back up the middle. Shot blocked by Norris. Rebound into the right corner. White Bear Lake sends it to the other corner. Centering pass. Nobody there but Norris. He picks it up and skates out. Norris up the middle. Skates it down deep into the White Bear Lake zone. Circling behind the net. Waiting for the rest of the team to come back out. Brainerd had to change lines. Puck pops out to neutral zone. Paskey to Potvin. Poked off his stick. Turned over to White Bear Lake. They dump it in deep in the Brainerd zone. Paskey back to Thompson. Puck rings up all the way up the wall to the left D. White Bear Lake dumps it towards the slot. Blocked by Wheezy. Wheezy puts it out to Potvin center ice. Potvin tipped to Stewart. Stewart in across the blue line, but Potvin a step off sides. .107 left in the first. Marsh. Potvin in across the blue line. Loses the puck between the hash marks. White Bear Lake chips it out to neutral zone. Puck loose in the neutral zone. Stewart passes it to Potvin, but he's down on the ice. White Bear Lake skates in on the right side of the Brainerd zone, down the wall. Paskey ties him up in the corner. Paskey up to Potvin. Potvin tries to poke it forward. Loose puck finally poked across the blue line. Out to neutral zone. Easy races over for it. White Bear Lake controlling the puck. Send it across the neutral zone and it bounces down for Paskey. Paskey spins off the defender, sends it up the wall. White Bear Lake keeping it in. Potvin to Stewart. Stewart chips it forward for Marsh. Marsh just off sides. They would have had a nice breakaway there. And Marsh about 5 feet off sides there. Good try. 35 seconds left in the first. Bible. Henson at the blue line, pokes it forward over to the wall. Dahlheimer picks it up. Dahlheimer sends it down behind the net, comes up the wall. Henson tries to tie him up. White Bear Lake gets it out to neutral zone. Dahlheimer to Norris. Dahlheimer across the blue line, but Norris still off sides. Bible. Yeah. White Bear Lake. 1 second left. That's the buzzer. End of the first period. Shots on goal for the end of the first period. 5 for Brainerd, 11 for White Bear Lake. Score 1-2. face-off for the second period. Brainerd scored A's versus White Bear Lake. Starting with Marsh on the face-off. Marsh, White Bear Lake steps up, steals the puck away into the Brainerd zone on the left side. Puck loose out front, poked away by Curl and sent up the wall by Marsh. Hotman, center ice, in across the blue line. Scoots the puck forward and it's covered by the goalie for a whistle before Hotman can get his stick back on it. Marsh again. White Bear out across the blue line into the Brainerd zone on the left. Stop at the top of the circle. Shot. They fanned on it. Paskey picks up the puck. Paskey out across the red line, dumps it in and out of play. Face off in the neutral zone. Bible, Norris, Henson. Dahlheimer in the neutral zone, drops it back to Thompson. Thompson up to Norris. Norris to Bible. Bible across the blue line, poked off his stick as he enters the White Bear zone. And Dahlheimer trying to wrestle for it. Norris in across the blue line again. Cuts down the wall on the left side. Norris. Centering pass, Henson there with Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer out to the point. Thompson falls down, sends it over to Norris. Norris shot, hits traffic, ends up behind the net. Bible racing after it in the corner. White Bear Lake scoots it up the wall. Centering pass goes off Thompson's skate on goal, and it's covered by Churl for a whistle. 15:30 left in the second. Bible. White Bear Lake shot from the point. It's traffic and bounces into the right corner. Picked up by Henson. Henson sends it up the wall to Dahlheimer. It's intercepted by White Bear Lake. Pass out front, poked away by Wheezy. And they get a shot on goal. Covered again by Churl. Face off in the Brainerd zone. Left wing circle. Bible. White Bear Lake wins it out to their left D. Henson races forward to pressure and didn't get much of a shot off. Pucked it behind the Brainerd net. Dahlheimer picks it up. Dahlheimer to Paskey. Paskey tries to send it to center ice where Henson was open, but it was intercepted. White Bear Lake offsides as they try to send it back into the Brainerd zone. Sweet on the face-off. Bates and McDonald. Sweet to Bates. Bates sends it over to the near side wall of the neutral zone, turning it over to White Bear Lake. Pressure being Sweet. White Bear Lake heads into the Brainerd zone on the left side. Centering pass intercepted by Bates. Loose puck out front, shot on goal. And saved and covered by Churl for another whistle. Sweet in the face-off. Moves it over to the wall for Bates, but White Bear Lake steps up, steals it. Puck shot on goal from the left D. Rebound covered by Churl again for another whistle. Face-off right wing circle. Sweet. White Bear Lake wins it. Shot on goal. Another save by Churl. Thompson chips it up the wall. Kept in by White Bear Lake. Shot from the left D. Another save by Churro. Rebound behind the Brainerd net. White Bear Lake comes away with it. They send it out to the point. Kept in at the right D position. Shot blocked by McDonald and sent out across the blue line by Bates. Turn back over to White Bear Lake. Pass up to center ice. White Bear Lake in on the left side. Cut off by Thompson. Pass to the middle. Pad save by Churro. Rebound pops out to the left side. White Bear Lake sends it over to the right wing. Another save by Churro. Churro doesn't have his stick. White Bear Lake over to their left wing down low. Missed pass ends up on the wall. Thompson ties him up. They send it up to their left D. Shot blocked by Stewart. And Sweet clears it out all the way down ice. It should be an icing on Brainerd. Nope. Sweet races in for it, or Stewart races in for it, loses an edge. White Bear Lake clears it out to center ice. In on the left side of the Brainerd zone. Angled wide by Wheezy. Shot off the side of the net, ends up in the right corner. White Bear Lake controlling the puck. Wheezy tying him up in the right corner. Marsh steps up, sweeps the puck forward, but loses an edge. Marsh chasing a Potman on the wall. White Bear Lake skins it off the wall, past Potman. Marsh and Paskey trying to tie him up, but White Bear Lake comes away with it, centering pass. Poked away by Paskey. And here comes Stewart. Stewart up the wall, out to neutral zone. Chips it down ice as it rolls across the goal line for an icing on Brainerd. 12:27 left in the second period. Score is still 1-2. Shots on goal are now 6 for Brainerd and 20 for White Bear Lake. Bible, Dahlheimer and Henson. Bible over to Henson. He's tied up. Thompson picks it up. Thompson sends it over to Norris. Norris up the wall. Kept in by White Bear Lake, poked up head by Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer, Henson, in across the blue line. Poked off his stick. Henson regains control of it and then loses it behind the net, turning it over to White Bear Lake. They send it back the other way. Pressure from Dahlheimer forces him to send it down low. Henson scoots it up the wall. Norris steps up, poked off his stick, and turned it over to White Bear Lake. Bible tying them up as they enter the neutral zone. Norris off the wall. Over to Henson. Henson across the blue line. Chips it down low. Dahlheimer behind the White Bear net. Sends it up the wall for Norris. Norris, his shot's blocked. That White Bear player fortunately fell down. Otherwise he would have had a breakaway. Dahlheimer in the neutral zone to Thompson. Thompson to Norris. Norris sends it forward into the hands of the White Bear Lake player. They skated across the blue line. Poke check by Norris. And Bates. White Bear Lake still controlling it. They head towards the slot. And nice poke check by Thompson. Puck through the slot. Thompson ties him up. Off the wall and out to neutral zone. Bates races after it down into the White Bear Lake zone. White Bear Lake beats him to the puck. Dahlheimer with a forecheck loosens the puck up and ends up on the far wall. White Bear Lake sends it out to neutral zone. Poke check by Norris. Sweet pokes it across the blue line. White Bear Lake sends it out to center ice. Paskey and Thompson are back. Donald back as well. Shot stopped by Bates. Paskey races away with the loose puck. Gets it across the blue line. Baskey still with the puck. Paskey off a skate and turned over to White Bear Lake as they send it down ice. Thompson in the Brainerd zone. Spins off the defender, sends up the wall to Bates. Bounces off his stick. Bates in the neutral zone, dumps it in deep. Sweet races in after it in the left corner. White Bear Lake sends it over to the near side. Out to Weezy in neutral zone. Over to Paskey. To Stewart in across the blue line. Stewart, shot on goal. And rebound covered by the White Bear Lake goalie for a whistle. 9:31 left in the second. Marsh with Potman and Stewart. Stewart stationed right out front. Potman in the corner with the puck. Backhands it to the slot. Swept away by White Bear Lake. And out across the blue line. Easy. Chips it back across the blue line, but Stewart still offsides. Marsh on the faceoff. Marsh pokes it across the blue line. White Bear Lake circles back, sends it out to neutral zone. Up deep in the Brainerd zone. Thompson races in for it. White Bear Lake beats him to it. Centering pass. Shot from the right slot, right hash marks. Stick save by Turtle. Puck out to the point. Over to the left side, out front. And diving save by Turtle. 8:48 left in the second. Henson falls down as he tries to clear the puck out. Puck out to neutral zone. Bible. Sent back out to neutral zone. Brainerd players falling everywhere. Henson down. Bible sends it out down across the blue line deep into the White Bear Lake zone. White Bear back to retrieve it. Pressure from Henson. Down low. White Bear Lake sends it over and out. Thompson chips it back. Henson tips it forward to Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer across the blue line. Spins away. Chips it over to Bible. His shot was deflected wide. Henson races into the left corner for it, but White Bear Lake sends it over to the right side. Cut off by Thompson, but they're able to get it out to neutral zone. Dahlheimer races over, but White Bear Lake in across the blue line. Pass to the slot. Deke around Turtle and score. Score 1-3 with 7:41 left in the second. Loose in the center of zone. Shot blocked out front. Still loose in the center of the Brainerd zone. Everybody chipping at it. Shot goes wide. White Bear Lake sends it out to their point. Shot intercepted by Weezy. Weezy out to center ice. In across the blue line. Loses control of the puck. McDonald. Sweet backhands it behind the net, turning it over to White Bear Lake. White Bear Lake out to center ice. Paskey there. Paskey with a poke check. Sends it out to the point, but kept in by White Bear Lake. Shot blocked. In traffic. Ends up on the far wall. Potman with it. Scoots it across the blue line. It's tied up, but manages to dump it forward. Intercepted by White Bear Lake. They send it out to the neutral zone. Paskey steals it away. Poked off his stick. Paskey back for it. Paskey, center ice to Potvin. Potvin to Stewart. Stewart to Potvin to Marsh. Marsh shot on goal. Loose puck. Tipped in by Potvin. Score 2-3. With 6:16 left in the second. Marsh shut the face off. Marsh. Whitebear Lake wins the face-off in on the right side. And a man coming up the middle. Pass over. Oh. Pass through the slot. Went wide. Look out to the blue line. Brainerd battling, but Whitebear Lake keeps it in. Thompson steals it away. Sends it behind the net over to Norris. Norris up the far wall. Potvin tips it forward to Stewart. Stewart in across the blue line on the left side. He's got Marsh on his right. Stewart shot off the side of the net, swept out to the point. Norris to Marsh in the slot. Marsh fans on it, puck into the right corner. Stewart in the corner, poked off his stick. Marsh picks it up and dumps it down behind the net. Potvin races in for it. Puck turned over to Whitebear Lake. Center ice. Thompson there to intercept. Sends it back to Potvin. Potvin in across the blue line, loses control of the puck into the right corner. Stewart goes in after it, along with Marsh, but Whitebear Lake comes away with it. Norris at the point, steps up, shot, deflected, and behind the net. Stewart puts it out front for Potvin. He's tied up, not able to get his stick on it. Potvin retrieves it off the wall, skates down low, and over to the right side. Potvin circles towards the net. His shot is deflected up over the net. Stewart out to the point for Norris. Norris dumps it into the slot. Puck bounces. Marsh. Backhand shot is deflected behind the net. Potvin. Marsh down low. Whitebear Lake comes away with it. Across the zone, intercepted by Potvin. And stolen away by Whitebear Lake. Into the Brainerd zone. Centering pass, nobody there. Picked up by Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer heads down ice. Dahlheimer in across the blue line. Heads over to the right side. Pass out front to Stewart, but it's just behind him. Loose puck picked up by Marsh on the wall, but turned over to Whitebear Lake. Dahlheimer. The back check in the neutral zone. Paskey picks up the puck. Paskey up off the wall. Bounces into the neutral zone, picked up by Whitebear Lake. Whitebear Lake knocked off the puck by Henson. Passing into the neutral zone. Henson up the middle with Paskey. Paskey. Henson tied up. Paskey centering pass, but Henson not able to get his stick on the puck. Whitebear Lake heads back the other way. In on the left side. Thompson cuts him off, but he dekes Thompson. Shot on goal, and it's saved by Churl. 3:17 left in the second one. The score is 2-3. Shots on goal 10 and 25. Bible to Thompson. Thompson through the middle of the zone to Paskey. Paskey skates it on out. Paskey over to Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer tries to get it to Henson out front, but pass is deflected down behind the net. Whitebear Lake heads back out. Pass Paskey. Thompson's back, or Weezy's back. 3-on-1. Pass through the slot. No shot. Weezy sends it up the wall. It's kept in by Whitebear Lake. Henson pressuring. Shot from the left D. Save by Churl. Paskey trying to scoot it up the wall. It's turned over to Whitebear Lake in the Brainerd zone. Out to their left D. Henson disrupts the shot with a good back check. Whitebear Lake tries to cut towards the slot. Out to their lefty again. Henson with a check. And White Bear Lake sends it up the far wall. McDonald steals it away. Pokes it forward. Turned over to White Bear Lake. White Bear Lake out to neutral zone. Norris steals the puck away. Chips it forward for McDonald. McDonald shot goes wide. Ends up on the near side wall. Thompson keeps it in. Scoots it down to Bates. Bounces over his stick and behind the net. White Bear Lake with the puck out to the point for Thompson. Thompson shot wide. Ends up in the left corner. And White Bear Lake able to grab the puck and skate it on out. White Bear Lake up the middle. Cut off by Thompson and Norris. This puck backhand goes wide. Thompson sends it up the wall to Bates. Bates center ice to Potvin. It's intercepted by White Bear Lake. They head right back in. Cut short by Norris. Over to their left knee. He's got some room to shoot. And nice save by Churl. 1:04 left in the second period. Marsh to Thompson. Thompson up the wall. Kept in by White Bear Lake. Centering pass over to the right wing. Shot on goal. Stick save by Churl. Rebound pops out to the left D. He fans on the shot. And Marsh picks it up to Stewart. Stewart passes it over to Potvin, but it's intercepted. Marsh steals it away. Marsh shot. Pass to Potvin up front. Potvin gets a shot off. And another shot off the rebound. And that's held by White Bear Lake goalie for a whistle. .34 seconds left in the second. Brainerd down by 1. Marsh on the face-off. Over to Stewart. Stewart out to Paskey at the point. Paskey, his shot hits traffic out front and pops over to the left side. Potvin. Potvin skates up to the net. It's poked up. He tries a wraparound and he scores. Nice move by Jordy Potvin with a wraparound. Tie game with 14 seconds left in the second period. Bible, Dahlheimer, Henson. Bible picked up by White Bear Lake in on the right side. They head towards the net, cut off by Henson. And loose puck ends up in the left corner. White Bear Lake sends it out to the point. Shot goes wide and into the right corner. That's the buzzer for the end of the second period. Start of the third period. Potvin in across the blue line. White Bear steals it away and sends it all the way out and down ice. Wheezy back to retrieve it. Wheezy behind the net to Paskey. Back to Wheezy. It scoots past him. Picked up by White Bear Lake on the wall. Dahlheimer pressuring. White Bear jumps it in deep. Paskey picks it up. Paskey up the wall. Through the neutral zone. Dahlheimer races in for it. Dahlheimer with it. His shot is deflected. The puck ends up on the wall. White Bear Lake through the neutral zone. In on the left side. Shot. Pad save by Turl. Wheezy sends it up the wall. Turns it over to White Bear again. Bible pokes it away. Chips it out. White Bear Lake dumps it back in. Paskey. Off the wall. Kept in by White Bear Lake. Bible sends it out to center ice. Turns it over to White Bear Lake. They dump it in. And it's picked up by Wheezy. Wheezy to Paskey. Paskey spins off of a defender. Off the wall. Kept in by White Bear Lake. Great chipping at it. White Bear Lake. Centering pass. Intercepted by Wheezy. Dahlheimer. Center ice. Picked up by Henson. Henson in on the left side. Centering pass out front. Oh, just intercepted. Almost got it to Bible there. Norris has a look. Shot. Glove save. Oh, nice shot though. Puck into the corner. Dahlheimer and Bible battling for it. Up the wall to Thompson. Thompson shoots. It's Bible, and White Bear Lake comes away with the puck. White Bear Lake up the middle. Thompson there, angling him wide over on the right side. Nice poke check by Thompson. Steals the puck away. This puck picked up by White Bear Lake. Bates with a poke check. Dahlheimer. Center ice to pass, or to Bates. Bates chips it across the blue line, and Sweet races in for it. White Bear Lake controlling it now. Out to center ice. Tipped over to their left wing, in across the blue line. Back to the center. McDonald with a poke check. White Bear Lake has to dump it in deep. Sweet. Thompson. Thompson to Bates. Bates up the wall. Knocked off the puck. White Bear Lake chips it back down the wall. Picked up by Thompson. Skated out. There we go. Thompson across the blue line. Pokes it forward and races after it into the White Bear zone. Got McDonald coming up the middle. Thompson's tied up. Puck stolen away by White Bear Lake. They head out into the neutral zone. In on the right side. Paskey there. Shot on goal. Pad save by Churl. Rebound. Pops behind the net. McDonald tries to get it out to Marsh, but it's intercepted, and White Bear Lake keeps it in. Easy. Over to Paskey in the corner. Paskey up the wall. Sends it down ice. That's an icing on Brainerd. 11:58 left in the third. Tie game 3-3. Shots on goal are 15 and 33. Marsh. Paskey off the glass to Potvin. Potvin in the neutral zone. Heads in on the left side. He's got Stewart coming up the middle. Potvin shoots. And it goes wide. Comes up the wall. Thompson not able to keep, or Wheezy not able to keep it in. Ties it up on the wall, waiting for Stewart to come out. Stewart. Over to Potvin. Intercepted by White Bear Lake, and they carry it out. Nice back check by Stewart. White Bear Lake dekes past Paskey. Shot on goal. And rebound sent out to the point. Another shot blocked by Wheezy. Paskey chips it out across the blue line, forcing White Bear Lake to reset. And on the right side, cut off by Stewart and Potvin to Stewart. Stewart, center ice. Tries to get it over to Marsh, but doesn't get enough on it. Turns it over to White Bear Lake. Off of a skate, Stewart. Potvin to Stewart. Stewart, shot on goal with a glove save and held for a whistle. Brainerd line change. We got Bible, Dahlheimer, Henson with Thompson and Norris. Left wing face off in the White Bear zone. Dahlheimer out to Norris. Norris shot, stick save, rebound. Off the side of the neck, picked up by White Bear Lake. And they send it all the way down ice for an icing.
Let's go, Brainerd!
10:35 left in the game. Face-off in the White Bear Lake zone. Bible at the right wing circle. Bible out to the point for Thompson. Thompson settles it, sends it over to Norris. Norris has to dump it because he's got pressure. And it's turned over to White Bear Lake. White Bear Lake coming up the near side wall, over through the neutral zone. Thompson picks it up. Thompson spins back, sends it up the wall, but it's kept in by White Bear Lake. Their D dumps it in deep. Stolen off Norris's stick. White Bear Lake out to their point. Steps up, shot, deflected up over the net. White Bear Lake down behind the net, sends it back out to their point again. He steps up the middle. Now goes off the post. Rebound swept out by Norris. Another shot from that right D. Loose puck out front. Hits the netting for a whistle. Sweet, McDonald, Bates with Paskey and Wheezy. Sweet. White Bear Lake shot goes high and wide into the right corner. Paskey in there. Paskey comes away with the puck, heads out of the Brainerd zone. Poked off his stick, but he gets it back. Paskey battling in the neutral zone, gets it across the blue line, and dumps it down low. Sweet, not able to get to it. White Bear Lake skates it out. They try to dump it, but Wheezy sends it back out to neutral zone. Bates tying it up. Sweet swoops up the loose puck. Sweet centering pass intercepted by White Bear Lake. Out to neutral zone. Wheezy to Sweet. Bounces off his stick. Turned over to White Bear Lake. In on the left side. Pass. Wheezy hits the far post and pops out to the right wing circle. Paskey sends it out to the point, and White Bear Lake just dumps it back in. Wheezy with it behind the Brainerd net. Up the right wall, the Bates bounces off his stick. It's kept in by White Bear Lake. Centering pass out front. Paskey sweeps it wide into the right corner. McDonald off the wall, down ice. That's going to be an icing on Brainerd. Line change. Marsh, Potvin, Stewart line comes out. Norris and Thompson for D. 8:26 left in the game. Score is still 3-3. Marsh, White Bear Lake wins the face-off. Shot in the right wing circle, just wide. Loose puck behind the net, picked up by White Bear Lake. Backhand pass out front. Picked up by their center. Skates out towards the point, tied up by Potvin. Potvin to Stewart. Stewart out to Potvin in the neutral zone. Potvin in across the blue line. It's tied up along the wall. Stolen away by White Bear Lake. They send it out to neutral zone to their left wing at the red line. Thompson. Norris dives and cuts off the shot. Out to their right D. Pressured by Popman, they try to send it down the wall. Loose puck in the right wing circle. Shot hits traffic. Stewart picks it up. Stewart poked off his stick as he tries to exit the zone, and White Bear Lake dumps it back in deep. Norris over to Thompson. Thompson out across the blue line, picked up by Popman. Popman one-on-one and turns the puck over to White Bear Lake. They chip it out to neutral zone, picked up by Paskey. Paskey to Potvin up the wall. Potvin pokes it forward in across the blue line at the left side. He's got Stewart coming up the middle. Stewart gets tied up, not able to get a shot off. White Bear Lake sends it out to the point. Thompson over to Paskey. Paskey has to wait. Paskey tips it forward, and it's intercepted by White Bear Lake. And they head back out to neutral zone. In across the blue line, shot from the high top of the zone, saved by Churl, rebound into the right corner, sent over to the left. Stewart gets it out across the blue line. A little push from Dahlheimer, and White Bear Lake heads back into the Brainerd zone. In on the right side, pass through the center of the zone, ends up in the left corner. White Bear Lake sends it down behind the net. Wheezy tied up down low. White Bear Lake sends it up the wall on the left side. Their D keeps it in. Marsh steps up. Shot from their left defenseman, saved by Churl. Sent back up the wall by Wheezy. Henson ties him up, and the puck slides out to neutral zone. White Bear Lake in on the right side. Brainerd caught in the middle of a line change. Slap shot from the top of the right wing circle is saved and held by Churl for a whistle. 5:51 left. Marsh, Dahlheimer, Henson with Norris and Thompson. Shot from the high slot. Glove save by Churl. Face off in the Brainerd zone again. Bible to Norris. Stolen away by White Bear Lake. They send it to the other side of the zone. Thompson races over. Slap shot ends up behind the net. Picked up off the wall by Norris. Norris chips it forward for Dahlheimer. Bounces over his stick and down ice. Henson and Dahlheimer race in for it. Picked up by White Bear Lake. They send it back out to center ice. Norris picks it up. Norris tied up on the wall. Pokes it forward. In across the blue line. It's stolen away by White Bear Lake. They head back into the Brainerd zone on the left side. Drop pass, stick save by Churl, and it's covered for a whistle. .5:11 on the clock. Bible. Lake wins a face-off. They cut up the middle over to the left wing and shot and scored. Sweet. Over to McDonald, center face-off. McDonald in on the left side, down the wall. McDonald still with the puck. Gets tied up in the left corner. Sweet there to help him. White Bear Lake chips it down behind their own net, picked up by the other D. Up the left wall and out to center ice, picked up by Wheezy. Wheezy sends it back to neutral zone. It's turned over to White Bear Lake. Lake controlling the puck. And they decide to dump it in deep in the Brainerd zone. Paskey Sends it up the wall to McDonald. McDonald in on the left side, cuts towards the middle. Shot, saved, rebound, Bates. Another shot and saved. That one's held for a whistle. .4:11 left. Marsh, Potvin, Stewart. Marsh to Stewart, taken away by White Bear Lake. Wheezy falls down. Pass out front, intercepted by Paskey. Paskey tries to send it up the wall. It's stopped short of the blue line. White Bear Lake centering pass from the left wing circle, shot, and a stretching glove save by Churl. Face off in the Brainerd zone. Marsh. Potvin drops it to Norris. Norris behind the net. Sends it up off the glass out to neutral zone. And turned over to White Bear Lake. Up the middle. Shot deflected. Bounces up across the goal line. Sent back out to the slot. Backhand shot. And ends up behind the net. Thompson sends it out to neutral zone. All the way down ice. The icing is waved off. Potvin steals it away. Centering pass by Potvin. Stewart not able to get his stick on it as he's tied up, and White Bear Lake heads back the other way. And up the middle. Poke check by Stewart. Marsh up the wall to Potvin. Neutral zone. Tip forward to Stewart. Stewart in across the blue line. Stewart poked off his stick, dumps it down low to Potvin. Potvin centers it to Marsh. Marsh poked off his stick. And White Bear Lake sends it out to center ice. Pass Wheezy, and the White Bear player loses control of the puck due to pressure from Wheezy. Poked by Paskey. White Bear Lake up the middle, shot goes wide. Lake in the right corner, pressured by Paskey behind the net, out to the right D, shot, saved by Churl, rebound into the right corner. Back out to their D, not able to control it. It comes out across the blue line. Potvin knocks him down, loose puck, easy, bounces it off the wall. Potvin, with Marsh tying it up, but White Bear Lake able to dump it in deep. 2 minutes left. Paskey off of a skate. Wheezy out to Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer sends it across the White Bear zone. Picked up by White Bear Lake. And some pressuring. Bible sends it across the zone to Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer has to dump it in deep. And some pressuring down low, but White Bear Lake controlling the puck. Out to center ice. And across the blue line. Past Wheezy, or past Thompson. But loose puck picked up by Dahlheimer and swept out to neutral zone. White Bear Lake tries to dump it in. It's picked up by Thompson. Thompson tied up in the neutral zone. Gets it across the blue line. And it pops out to Norris at center ice. Norris fumbles the puck and turns it over to White Bear Lake as they head into the Brainerd zone up the middle. Thompson with a poke check. Loose puck picked up by Dahlheimer. Dahlheimer heads down ice, but he gets tied up as he enters the White Bear Lake zone. Picked up by White Bear Lake. They send it back out to the neutral zone. 45 seconds on the clock. And Brainerd empty net. White Bear Lake scores. With 42 seconds left in the game. Marsh. White Bear Lake wins the face-off. Loose puck picked up by Marsh. Out to center ice, intercepted by White Bear Lake. Poke check by Marsh, picked back up by White Bear Lake, in on the right side. Stolen away by Stewart. Paskey scoots it across the blue line out to Marsh center ice. Marsh in across the blue line. Marsh stops at the right wing circle as he's tied up, and White Bear Lake sends it up the wall, kept in by Stewart. Marsh with a stick on it. Over to Potvin. Potvin settles the puck, shoots, and loose rebound. Swept down across the goal line. Potvin and Marsh trying to dig it out, but that's the end of the game. White Bear Lake wins 3-5. Shots on goal 19 for Brainerd, 47 for White Bear Lake.